Not everything in this book, and some things that are not in that book, and I mean more than just my philosophy on the subject, is included in understanding 31 Jinn verses of Al-Qur'an from the second of the first month of 1438. Since this is a month of 31 days that ends in what they call Halloween, I'm talking about October, I am thinking of how Al-Qur'an has 31 verses that include the word Jinn. The first two are 6, 100, and 612. 600 can get us to ask, wouldn't treating those taken as gods and goddesses, as co-workers with the god or as family that defeat what may be called the Iblis and Diabolos consciousness? 6, 112 gets me to think that since God's prophets are opposed by humans and jinn that are shayateen, that opposition probably would have its own prophets of Satan to give some middle ground for how devils uplift each other. The third of the first month of 1438. The third jinn verse of 31 in Al-Qur'an is 628. It mentions how many jinn took humans somewhere or made use of them. Is this mental, spiritual, or even physical? In some ways, I experience the latter, and the former two are very much literally true. As humans, we should ever the more realize our respite and that our pacts have limited duration. This life is a place of seen and unseen helpers. From the fourth of the first month of 1438, Al-Qur'an 630 alleged that a confluence of humans and jinn will relate how they heard verses from God's messenger prophets, but they disbelieved all that because this nearer world seemed to conflict with that. How can they expect us, beings of choice, to go along with their ethics and mythology unless they convince us in terms of what is best in this world? For the fifth of the first month of 1438, Al-Qur'an 7:38 tells us that both jinn and humanity can get exactly the curses they ask for. What would be the case of those who respect and will benefit for their leaders and the previous communities among humans and jinn? 6:1, 1438. I know, in moving on to the sixth jinn verse, that I skipped the story around Iblis, Satan, coming from all horizontal directions. But I'll leave that for another series of reflections on metaphysical beings. Al-Qur'an 779 alleges that it was already known that many jinn and humans would be denizens of hell. That hellfire club would then be those who are emotionally heedless to and shut out their light and sound. The 25th of the first month of 1438, the next 13 jinn verses. Al-Qur'an 1119 speaks about Allah, God in the Arabic singular form, already experiences the future when humans and jinn are already in the hell realms. With the humans and the jinns already in the hell realms. The prior verse implies the reason is that they refuse to be as one community of beings, should both be united in purpose as a nation. The belief that jinn are invisible beings are made of a smokeless fire type of matter is found in Al-Qur'an 15:27. The verse before that describes the matter we are in like sounding clay that has been altered, aside from calling them humans and fallen angels. A more materialistic way to describe them would be fire beings and clay beings. I know by experience that all jinn or elementals, which most faiths teach were here first, are really a metaphysical fire. Al-Quran 1788 makes a claim that all of humanity and al-Jinn collectively are incapable of producing like Al-Quran on their own. What is meant by such similarity? The most famous mention in Al-Quran about al-Jinn is in 1850. There is where Iblis is shown to be different from the Malaika, or unfallen angels, because he is from al-Jinn. It is implicit that he refused to prostrate towards Adam. The implication that the rest of the being of that type is also refused. It mentions how Iblis and the Jinn who stay on his side will be preferred to God by some. If this is true, Satanism must either be the oldest religion or the second one. Satanism is certainly not something that started in San Francisco in the 1960s of the Common Era. Something very relevant to magic is the mention in Al-Quran 27:17 of how Jinn were ordered for Prophet Solomon, Shlomo, in the same way that the animals and birds can be organized. The Islamic belief that Ifrit are both Jinn and have the power to do physical tasks comes from Al-Quran 27:39. This verse has that this Jinni testifies to its own trustworthiness. That turns out to be true. What are some other trustworthy and powerful Jinn? Again, I want answers to some of my questions in the comment section. Can every human and Jinn receive all the guidance they need on an individual basis? Al-Quran 32:13 teaches that God didn't want it that way, and already said, I am going to fill hell with Jinn and humans. How do you think hell is a place that requires fulfillment aside from that? Since many consider Lucifer, or Lux Iferos, a Latin title of Venus, to be the devil, it is important to note how the metal of Venus is mentioned in Al-Quran 34:12. A fount of molten copper or brass are therein said to move for Solomon, king of ancient Israel, much the same way the winds and Jinn moved for him. What do the Jinn do in your presence? Don't make up stuff. Give real answers if you have them. Al-Quran 34:14 claims that the knowledge of Jinn is limited, and that they may be bound to service that depends on the life of a personality, like Solomon, of the house of David. The light beings or unfallen angels are shown in Al-Quran 34:41 as mentioning how most people will treat the Jinn as gods and goddesses. These will say that people acted like they worshipped them, when they really worshipped Jinn. It seems very clear that many call Jinn angels, but let's not pretend that they are the same thing as those called angels that are malaikat, are light beings. I think almost anyone can agree with Al-Quran 37:158 that the Jinn are not children of God. But some may deny that Jinn will have to manifest. Demonic comrades are assigned to those who want to embrace their evil, according to Al-Quran 41:25. It also mentions how other generations of Jinn and humans have come and gone, directing each other's perception of the future and past. Whether minions or Keith, what are we influencing towards? The end results may prompt some extreme desires of revenge towards the jinn and humans they followed, according to Al-Qur'an 41:29. Who do you want to trample underfoot till they are the lowest of creatures? 26:1, 14:38. The following 6 jinn verses. Almost anyone has a concept of who the losers are. Al-Qur'an 46:18 speaks of it being al-jinn and humans who had a true declaration justified against them. The previous verse tells that these beings think that the previous generations staying gone. These beings think that the previous generation staying gone disproves the afterlife. According to Al-Qur'an 46:29, a group, likely 3 to 10, of jinn silently listened to Al-Qur'an and went to their folk to warn about it afterwards. Al-Qur'an 51:56 says that the purpose of the jinn and humans was for devotion, service, or worship. The next verse can be said to be a comment on why. Then comes a verse with an example of a response. Al-Qur'an 55:15 mentions that the creation of jinn is of a smokeless flame of the black hot fire. Before I go on, let me remind you that a phrase questioning the two beings with accountability is repeated 31 times, asking jinn and humans what blessing they deny is verse 16, 18, 21, 23, 25, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 45, 47, 49, 51, 53, 55, 57, 59, 61, 63, 65, 66, 69, 71, 73, 75, and 79 says, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ? Or if you're continuing. Oh, and yeah. A challenge for the assembly of jinn and humans is to ascend beyond the regions of the earth and heavens with their own authority is found in Al-Qur'an 55:13. It is important to note that heavens in Al-Qur'an is not the hereafter, but the universe, starting with the heaven that has the stars. It is also interesting to note how important 33 is to many initiation structures and is the number of letter Aleph, or A, and abracadabra triangles. A time will come where no human and no jinn will be questioned about the details of their sin, according to Al-Qur'an 55:39. I think that Ar-Rahman are 55, and Al-Waqiyah are 56 are the only suratain are chapters where both humans and al-jinn are addressed together. Stay tuned for the next.